Good afternoon, Pak Harto and my friends. Today I would like to present the seventh article assigned to us. The title is Implementing Interest-Based Instructional Materials to Minimize EFL Learners' Speaking Skills Demotivating Factors. This study is researched by Konder Manurung and Masyuri from English Education Department, Tadulako University, Palu, Indonesia. Now, the content of this presentation and also the research is divided into four parts. The first one is the introduction, mainly focusing on the background of the study and research questions. The second one is the research method, which is how the research is going to be conducted. And the third one is the findings and discussion. It talks about the demotivating factors and treatment. And the fourth one is the conclusion, mainly containing summary of the research and future suggestion. Now, for the introduction, as I have mentioned earlier, that this study developed by Konder Manurung and Masyuri with the previously mentioned title uh, is composed as seeing the importance of language learners' ability to express feelings, experiences, and thoughts in daily communication. However, this ability is affected by two classified factors, the demotivating factors and the motivating factors. There's an importance why identifying the motivating factors is being studied here, especially later on, the researchers wanted to cope with this problem. Now, these demotivating factors are believed to impede motivation of language learners. The identification of these factors permits teachers, especially speaking class teachers, to avoid them during pre-teaching phase by selecting interesting instructional materials and then selecting effective teaching techniques and choosing appropriate teaching media. Now, language teachers hold vital roles to prepare quality instructional processes that motivate and encourage language learners to actively participate in the development of the speaking skills, both in the face-to-face teaching and out of the classroom activities. Therefore, knowledge of effective instructional design is required by language teachers. The different needs and motivation of learners should be used as the base of the course content planning and the choice of methods of classroom teaching. Based on these arguments, the researchers propose the following two questions. The first one is, what factors demotivate the development of the speaking skills of Indonesian EFL learners? And the second question is, how do the implementation of interest-based instructional materials, or IPIM, develop speaking skills? Next one, or the second part, is about the research method. Now, the method here used is uh, a longitudinal mixed method research design. So it consists of three phases. The first one is a qualitative inquiry, in which it is applied to map demotivating factors experienced using interviews out of 220 learners at the English department of Tadulako University in Palu. However, instead of having the interviews done by themselves, by the researcher themselves, they asked a favor of 20 students from the class for speaking class. They have got the training before conducting the survey or the interview with the hope that when the participants were asked by fellow students or with another students from even though from higher level or semester, they will feel more comfortable and more confident in answering the questions, therefore making the result to be more valid, more or less like that. Now, the second one, the second phase, I mean, intervention is done to minimize these demotivating factors using the classroom action research, and IBIM are instructed during the cycle of the car. And then the third one, the feedback interview, is taken again to dig out the potential factors of the IBIM implementation. From these three phases of study, later on, some findings are acquired. Now, the third part is the findings and discussion. There are 15 factors based on the interview in which they're impeding the development of the speaking skills of the EFL learners. And from these 15 factors, we have five most frequently experienced. So we have here, the first one is knowledge about topics in the speaking classes with the number frequency 207 participants answering for number one, or in percentage, there are 94.9%, followed by fear of making mistakes, and then use English by the lecturers, feeling shy to speak, lack of practice, lack of vocabulary, lack of grammar, and then not accustomed to speak English, pronunciation problems, study habit, lack of confidence, not able to find anyone to speak English, lack of motivation, feeling nervous to speak, and the speaking environment. Again, as I have mentioned, from these 15, the researchers only take the five most uh, or the top five most demotivating factors in speaking skills. Now we have these five. The first one is the knowledge about topics in speaking classes, fear of making mistakes, lecturer does not use English all of the time, and then feeling shy to speak and lack of practice. Now, the first factor is knowledge about topics in speaking classes. So this first factor is because the class does not fulfill the needs to develop the speaking skills, and in which usually students are mainly given the topics by the teacher or the lecturer, and then they're given some time to prepare and then to present it without the need or the favor of having their own topics to talk about. These may impact on the students' knowledge, particularly on the topic. So it is advised that language teachers consider the needs and interests of learners prior to designing instructional materials. Then the second factor is fear of making mistakes. Now, from the study, it is implied that learners pay more attention to grammatical construction rather than the continuation of the talk. The use of English by the lecturers is reported to be the third most frequently experienced as demotivating factors due to the force of shifting into Indonesian when explanation on the topic needs to be ensured. Now, going back to the second factor here, it is mostly because of when we're talking, it is quite different from when we are writing. Sometimes when we're talking, we're afraid whether we're going to produce uh, mistakes or errors related to grammar, pronunciation, and word choice. Now, these particular make the students feeling afraid of making these mistakes, therefore making them to reduce speaking in English to their colleagues or maybe to their teachers or lecturers. Now, for the third one, lecturer does not use English all of the time, uh, as it is more or less related to the first factor, knowledge about topics in speaking classes. Sometimes teacher or lecturers find the students in difficulties in understanding their topic, or maybe the words are the target words that they don't know about, and maybe it is related also with the instructional. Therefore, the lecturers or teachers sometimes they need to explain further using Indonesian. Now, it is also suggested to, instead of using Indonesian, to use another simpler words to explain these instructions or the information related to the topics. Now, as the lecturers themselves, they don't speak in English all of the time, the students may be impact on this by following the example perhaps, or by answering in Indonesian as well instead of in English. Now, the fourth one, feel shy to speak. This next factor, which makes subjects of the study only use English when they are in the classroom. So it is more or less related to the previous factor. So there's no doubt at all that learners are not confident to speak or to involve in a discussion whenever they are not sure of the topic. So when they're not really sure or when they're feeling shy to speak in English in the classroom, it is unavoidable to ask them to or to have them not speak in English outside the classrooms, especially in public places. And the last factor is lack of practice. Now, these demotivating factors contributed to the existence of the previously discussed factors, which is feeling shy to speak. So when they don't speak in English all of the time, they will not have enough chances or enough practice to keep using their language, or in this case, English. Now, the next phase, seeing all of those demotivating factors, the researchers try to do an intervention using the classroom action research or CAR, in which interest-based instructional materials are introduced. It is basically done in two cycles. His next phase, which is to answer the second objective of the study, an intervention in the form of CAR is conducted to a group of EFL learners in the respective English department. This is done in two cycles, like I have mentioned earlier, and then the first cycle is done in a group mode, and the second one, or in the second cycle, it is done in individual mode. There is no significant improvement, however, from cycle 1 as the topic of discussion is taken out of the majority's choice. Thus, some learners still have problems with the knowledge of the topic. Now, when during the implementation of the IPIM and the classroom action research, so this particular group is given the chance to group themselves according to the topic they have chosen. However, since the chosen topics is based on the majority, like say, I choose badminton and my friend chose basketball. So this particular or similarities in topic is mingled into one specific group or a bigger group called sport. Now, why there is no significant improvement? Because inside this group particularly, so there are students in which they don't really familiar with the term related to the other sport uh, branches. For example, I may be able to understand the terms or the words in basketball, but I will not be able to explain more or talk more about badminton or soccer, for instance. It is different from the second cycle or cycle 2. Uh, they are given the freedom to choose their own topic, and then, of course, during this phase, it is concluded that the implementation of IBIM contributes significant improvement in speaking ability. Uh, Now, this is reported through interviews, of course. Sorry, not this one. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. This is reported through interviews, and in addition, there are 5 potential factors which contributed to the development of the speaking skills. So after the 2 cycles, they were given another questions or interviews, and then from these interviews, there are 5 potential factors acquired from the implementation of IPIM. The first one is this one, activating previous knowledge. The second one is building up learners' belief. The third one is changing the role of lecturer. The fourth one is the grouping technique. And the fifth one is choosing topic technique. Now, for the first one, activating previous knowledge. So this IPIM are in fact help learners to activate their previous knowledge. This previous knowledge was reported to enrich vocabularies of learners when they intend to express feelings, ideas, and thought. The results of the interview with learner revealed that the implementation of the IPIM allowed the learners to choose topics that have been familiar with them. It implies that the instructional material should not only be based on the available syllabus, but it should also be directly related to the real situation and context. For the second one is building up learners' belief. It is it was reported that the use of the IPIM build up learners' belief in expressing feeling, ideas, and thought. The topic was chosen by the learners themselves, ensuring them to be able to present the topic due to the fact that they have got familiar words and sentences. The third one is changing the role of lecturer. Traditional teaching believes that the teachers are the only source of knowledge. However, in modern teaching learning process, the role of teachers is altered from teacher to facilitator. For example, like when or during the implementation of IPIM, when the learners are searching or mingling with themselves or finding the topic and answering all of those things or preparing for the presentation, the teacher come to these particular groups or individuals asking them and yeah, guiding them. For example, like one of the participant mentioned in the interview, as I'm quoting here, so the student say, I like the way the teacher asked me to choose the topic. He came to group when we discussed. He encourages us. So it implies that the teacher role here is changing, becoming a facilitator, not only the source of learning. And the fourth one is grouping technique. Now, the learners believe that the employment of group work preceded individual work provided them more opportunities to practice and got more chance to get acquainted with their classmates, where this acquaintance allowed them to know each other, and as a result, group members support each other. Now, when you have this kind of belief in your group, and then you're confident enough with your group members, so uh, more speaking or more dialogues or activities are engaged fluent or more fluently. And the last one, choosing topic technique. So the topic to be presented in the speaking class provide the students with chances to speak so that practices can be autonomously conducted. It implies that speaking class atmosphere is not only influenced by the language teachers and the chosen methods, it is also affected by the assignment of the learners to choose instructional topics. Now, the last part is the conclusion. Needs and interest of learners are two important factors in planning instructional materials to improve speaking ability. The study investigated a technique that could minimize the demotivating factors, and it is suggested that this implementation of IPIM overcomes the speaking problems and improves the speaking ability. Now, the last one is that the implementation of IPIM is found to be able to activate the learner's prior knowledge and to build up the learner's belief and self-confidence. I think that's all for the presentation related to Article 7. Thank you very much and God bless you.